Hello everyone, DonTheCrown here, and I want to do a real quick video for the Slormancer, and here's 8 things that I wish I knew before I started playing the game, because I've been having an absolute blast. Number one thing is that respspecs for basically everything in the game are free and easy to do. So if I go and I spend points in something, I can just pull them right back out, and this works for the passive tree, it works for your character attributes as well. We can just move them around as we please. Same thing for the ancestral legacy. We can just level up and down our stuff without really losing anything, which is definitely really cool, because normally in ARPG you're going to end up spending points and then not be able to get them back very easily, so there's no friction here at all. Next up, in terms of skills, one of the things I didn't realize at first is that you are limited to one thing per line here being equipped at a time. So we can see here, for example, on the first line here of Architect of Death, I have 40% gold is fine, but then I also put points into evasive magic, which gives me max mana. However, at the bottom right here, you'll notice that it says equip. And what this does is it changes what the active thing is to that thing. So I can spend points on the entire tree. I can max it all out. Only one thing at a time, though, in the horizontal line is going to be able to be active. And so that's pretty much very important to know, so that you are having the proper thing equipped. Like for example here, I did not have my acidic arrowheads active, which like applies poison for a very long time, because I had put a point into Arrows of Torment after that, and so this wasn't active for a while, which is pretty annoying. Next up, let's talk about Reapers real quick. These are the weapons that you're just going to find over time. You find these mostly from closing different breaches. You find a lot of these in the Slorm Temple as well. And some of these like will evolve and grow and change. However, you'll notice that they all have levels, and leveling them up is just leveling like with normal XP. You don't have to do anything particularly crazy. However, you might notice that the one on the right here, the Adam Nostrils Perfect Bow, it has red damage numbers, and it says Reaper damage granted by Reaper Mastery 85. Well, what this is a cool system that they added, where you have Slorm Reaper Mastery. This pretty much increases your effectiveness with every single weapon for your character, and this is based off like how much experience you've earned with weapons on that character. And so what this means is that if I go and use a brand new level 1 bow, this will actually be treated like it's a level 85 bow, which makes it a lot easier to go and farm. Because otherwise, if I didn't have the mastery, it would be really bad. Like, even that's working over there. But yeah, so this just allows you to switch around and change stuff. Now, obviously, some of the things are not going to scale up, like the stuff down here at the bottom. I don't think scales up until you actually level up the weapon. However, the damage at the top does go up quite a bit. So this means you're not going to have to drop down the difficulty a whole ton. Next up, let's talk about crafting real quick. A couple of things that I didn't know about crafting right away. The first thing here is once you unlock the blacksmith, you can like right click or drag and drop an item over here. You have some different options for it to craft the item. But this list can be scrolled down either by scrolling or by clicking on this little arrow here. And you can see that there's a whole heck of a lot of options for things that you can do with this. And this is pretty cool. There's definitely a lot of stuff you can do. Now, in order to know what some of these stuff means, pretty much when you're hovering over an option, anything that is in red on the side here is going to change. And anything that's not red is not going to change. So when it says reforge all scores, that means it's going to change the numbers, but not change what those numbers are for. So like my attack speed will stay attack speed, but it might go down to 16.13 or even up to 23.04. And so you can kind of see that if I go down to reforge normal scores, it's only going to do the top ones. And then if I do reforge normal stats, that is going to change what those rolls are. So that could change from like attack speed and elemental resistance to like ancestral strike damage or cooldown reduction and stuff. That's pretty important to know. Now you can also lock these things so they won't roll in terms of score or in terms of stat. Just going to keep it that way. This is pretty important for things like your base items. Because if you want to, like, for example, roll like these gloves, for example, away from being armor and raw damage to raw damage and something else, I would just go down here and I would lock the raw damage, and then I would reforge the normal stats, and it would keep the raw damage, but it would roll the other stat to something else. Now you might notice here that we're looking at the list of things that this can turn into, that there is an orange value. And the orange value is anything that you've already gotten, because this is like an elimination list. As we go through, we won't get a repeat at all. Any of the gray ones are things that are already on the item in some way and can't be rolled, but the orange ones are ones that we have already actually rolled. And so we're going to continue to roll here. And this last roll will 100% be attack speed, because I have not yet gotten attack speed. So when I click this here, it's always going to be attack speed, and then it just resets itself, and you kind of just can go through again. So it does kind of have a soft pity elimination system, which is pretty good. Next and last thing about crafting here is the legendaries. My first impression on a lot of the legendaries were, this is interesting, but why would I give up all of the other stats that my gear has? But you don't have to do that. Legendaries can actually be crafted on just like any other item. If you scroll down here, we can see that we can add magical stats. And then once we add magic stats, you can add, all of the stats basically to build out a complete yellow item, an epic item, but then it has a legendary mod on the bottom. Likewise, a epic piece of gear can have a legendary effect added to it, but it does cost quite a bit of legendary Slormancer. But also you can re-roll any legendary effect, so it can become something else instead. It doesn't show you all of the potential options there, but I do think that this is pretty cool, because a lot of the legendaries do kind of seem like they're going to fit everything in. So it's kind of like a legendary power on top of that. And then loot filter. So loot filter, if we go to this bottom section right here, or you click the button all the way on the far right for the Filtotron 3000 Mark II, we can go through and hide items of different tiers unless they have particular stats we want. So a pure stat is basically a stat that has an exclamation point. And what that means is a high roll, basically a very, very high roll. It's kind of hard to beat that stat unless you have a much higher item level item. So like a level 100 item with a pure stat, it's going to be pretty high. You can invest with the Storm Temple guy to make those stat numbers even higher. That's probably a high priority, but you can make it so that you can hide all items unless it has a pure stat or like a highlighted stat and a perfect score type of stuff. Perfect score, I think, is the more exclamation points there are for this. I don't think I have one of those with me right now, or even if it has a reinforcement level. And you can make it so that anything that drops that doesn't meet the show part of the filter here turn into either gold, does nothing, or turns into fragments. So this pretty much is just an awesome way to kind of deal with it. You get 75% of the value, but you don't have to really deal with the loot. There's no loot management. You're not going to feel like you're going through your inventory all the time scrapping stuff. It will just be dealt with automatically, which I think is really cool. Now let's talk about leveling zones. As you go through the campaign, you're going to do a whole bunch of stuff, but once you get kind of towards the end game, you're going to have to level up and get yourself more power. And one of the most effective things you can do is actually come back to the Mage Tower here and go to the Tempopotamus's Bastion. Now it's important to click at the bottom here, match my level. And what this will do is it will accelerate or raise up the level of our zone here from being level 27 to being your current level, mine's 68. And this zone is super great because it is just jam-packed with 3 breaches all together. And you pay attention here, we're starting at 818,000 Slorb. We're just going to walk right by these guys. And we're just going to come up here, walk over this, walk over that, and walk over that. And the XP and Slorm and loot and stuff will just flow right on in. This is definitely a great way to get quite a bit of nice XP and progression. Level 69, nice. And yeah, that's just this is I think one of the best ways to level up. Now you're not going to be getting Elder Slorm in here, so that is kind of a pain in the butt. However, this is a lot of really good and fast XP. You see we went from 818 to 843. Now, to save yourself a little bit of time here, the next thing you want to do is not click on this and leave. Instead, you want to click L or click on the door up here to abandon and say absolutely. It's going to give you the you ran away screen and put us right back outside, and we can go right back in. If you don't do this, you're going to end up having to select the Tempopotamus Bastion again, which is a little bit of a pain in the butt to have to do. Lastly, once you've kind of farmed up a bunch of Slorm, you pretty much will just have too much of it. And what you can do is talk to Olrin here, and he allows you to like kind of do some stuff with Slorm in terms of like turning it into Elder Slorm specifically. He's also kind of the temple NPC. And so we can go and increase our Elder Slorm max safe capacity. This is pretty important to level up for sure. We can go and level up our ultimatums. We can go, or we have our different ultimatums. We can level them up, and then we can convert our Slorm into from pure Slorm to Elder Slorm, or regular Slorm into Elder Slorm. So going and doing 100,000 to 50 Elder Slorm is a pretty good deal. It's going to allow you to kind of like go and do the farming stuff in the end game, or the mid game, I guess, that is not necessarily spamming expeditions all day. Kind of like is a nice things to do. We do Slorm Temple and the Great Forge. Both of these have an Elder Slorm cost. So instead of just running battlefields all day, you can go and kind of like focus farm on the Slorm Temple or the Great Forge by converting. And this is pretty easy. Hopefully this video helped you out. We'll be streaming live on Twitch, so come by and ask any questions there. I'm still kind of learning the game, but it's been a heck of a lot of fun. I hope you guys have a good one.